I thought I would make a video talking about the options for speakers that are available to people today. You can either buy a new pair after some research, or you can upgrade an old pair. Say you go to a garage sale or a thrift store or something, you see an older pair of speakers. You can bring those home, take them apart, and try to upgrade them. And I want to talk about that a little bit later. And of course, the other option, the one that I usually choose to do, is to build my own. Design and build my own, actually. Now, what I have here sitting on my lap is an example of a speaker that I bought. I bought these, I don't know, around 7 or 8 years ago to use in my office with editing. You can see editing set up behind me here. And I didn't build speakers at the time because I knew how much I would have to put into it to get a good pair of speakers designed and built. And I wasn't gonna like buy a kit or anything. I'm not into that. Okay, I'm almost always going to want to design it and build it to my own specifications. Okay, so I bought these and I was surprised at how good they sound. They were relatively cheap. You really can't go wrong. Regardless of the size of room you have, a speaker such as this will work well for you. Now, these have good bass, but it can be improved, of course, with separate subwoofers. But that's going to be true for almost every type of speaker that you can get today. They're not going to put out the same amount of bass that you're going to get from even just a single separate subwoofer, let alone 2 or even 3 if you can afford the space and afford the money to buy them. It's always better to have more bass than you actually need. That way you're not overdriving anything. And the advantage of having a separate subwoofer and not sending the bass to your main speaker is that you're using the main speaker in a more frequency response friendly way. It doesn't have to produce that deep bass that the subwoofer is taking care of. And the subwoofer operating, say, below 80 hertz and below, you're not going to be able to localize it unless it's making some other noise that's higher in frequency than that. You can't localize, in other words, where bass is coming from as long as it's below 80 hertz. So you're taking the stress away from your main speakers and you're putting it in the subwoofer. So that's enough about subwoofers, and that's basically talking about the speakers that you can buy. There are a lot of excellent choices out there, and like I've said in other videos, like you can go and listen to people reviewing these things, either subjective or objective reviews. But the simple fact of the matter is that nobody is really making terrible speakers these days. And they really haven't been for quite a number of years. Nobody is taking like the time to design and build speakers that sound bad. All right. Now they might be tuned to sound a certain way, but that's different. Okay. That's the designer's choice, if he has any, because a lot of designs that you have today are designed to the numbers. Very much like I made a video talking about my hearing aids and the issues I had getting those set up. And you go into the audiologist, he tests your hearing, measures it, and then he programs the hearing aid to suit that measurement. And when you put them in, they don't sound that good, okay? So same deal with the speakers, but kind of inverse of that, because they kind of all sound the same. You're going to get it basically the same thing in the same price range. So if you go out and look for a pair of speakers that are, say, $400 each, say a total of $800, say under $1,000 for a pair of speakers, you compare it to another brand, you know, in the same price range, you're going to get basically the same thing. There might be subtle differences, but nothing that's going to be huge. Okay? Now, talking about upgrading, there's a little bit of mysticism around that. Older speakers, there are quite a few that were made that sounded really good. And, you know, you can take an older pair of speakers, as long as the drivers are in good condition, and reuse them if they're working properly. And the only thing that you really have to get past is this idea that they might not be flat. Okay, because that's the big focus these days on perfectly flat response. But if you listen to them and you like them as they are, then I would say use them. I've listened to quite a lot of old speakers. I mean, that's all I had when I was growing up, were old speakers. I'm 57 now, almost 58. So when I was a kid, they were old speakers when we're talking about in today's terms. And they sounded good to me at the time. And like I said, also in a previous video, you tend to get used to things, how things sound, right? If you have a pair of speakers and you plug them in, you start listening to them, they might sound a little bit, you know, they might sound really, really good to start with. And you get used to them and they start to sound more, say, normal. Or they might sound a little bit funky, as in they might be a little bit boomy. But eventually your ears and your brain get used to that sound, and it, you know, it's what you're expecting. So you can get used to these things. Now, as for upgrading the speaker itself, okay, the first thing you have to look at is that the speaker was designed by someone who probably knew what he was doing. Okay, speaker design has been fairly mature, well, mature for a fairly long time. So unless you're talking about something that's, say, you know, 60, 70 years old, it's probably been designed to account for the driver's specifications, the Thiel small parameters. So you can't just take the same size woofer that you find on Parts Express and put it in the box and expect you're going to get good results from it. The box size is determined by the parameters of the woofer and, you know, the response that it gets, whether it's sealed or if it's, especially if it's ported, because the port length and tuning will all depend on that woofer, the Thiel small parameters of the woofer. So if you have an older pair of speakers that are still working and you have questions maybe about it being flat, but you don't have any means to measure it, and you think you can take out the crossover and replace the parts that are on there to new ones, then there's nothing wrong with that. And it may change the sound because components do shift over time, especially, say, capacitors. They can shift in value over time. But the change will probably not be night and day. To get the most out of an older pair of speakers that you want to, say, upgrade, you would have to run some measurements. You'd have to run measurements to start with to see what they're putting out right now. And then you would have to measure the drivers to see what their parameters are. Or you can just go straight away to designing or redesigning the crossover, like going from the old one as a model and say, okay, what if I try changing that, you know, 2.2 microfarad cap to a 3.3, see what happens, and then measure it from there and see what you get. Trial and error, in other words, without real measurements. But that's, like I said, that's trial and error, as in you're going to try it, you're going to listen, and, you know, maybe you like it, maybe you don't, maybe you can't tell the difference. Okay, so you really don't have any insight into what's actually happening unless you do measurements. So you need a measurement microphone, and you need the software to do that, which is like REW, which is free, you can download. And you can buy a measurement microphone that's ready to plug into your computer, UMic 1, for around $100 US. And with that, you can measure exactly what the speaker is doing. You just need to watch a few videos on how that's done. But then there is this idea that you can just part for part replace the parts on the crossover, like especially the capacitors and especially the inductors, to a larger gauge inductor. Say originally it has an iron core inductor with very fine wire, and you want to say, okay, that is garbage. I'm going to take that out and I'm going to put in a proper heavy gauge air core inductor and it's going to sound better. I would rule that out because the chances are that it will not sound better. And in fact, I can't say this is a rule, but it's definitely a possibility, and I've done it before. The gauge of the wire in the inductor may be acting as a resistor as well as an inductor. As in, you know, instead of putting in a separate resistor to pad down the response of a driver, you use the inductor as the resistor and the, crossover inductor, so that you'll change the response by putting in a larger, like, diameter wire coil when you do that, because you're reducing the resistance. And capacitors, like I said, they can age, and that's a gradual thing, and it depends upon, like, capacitors are subject to wear, you can say, from heat. The higher the temperature, the less time they'll last, and also voltage. So if you've been overdriving that speaker, say past the voltage rating of the capacitor, that can weaken or change the capacitor as well. It'll increase the temperature of it, and it will also wear it out through that repeated over voltage. But both of those are fairly uncommon in a, say, production speaker, okay? Unless you're talking really ultra cheap ones. The ones with a proper crossover, as in mounted on a board, typically are fairly well designed with the response in mind and the sound. The better ones would be, there would be a designer involved that's going to listen to the speaker as he's building it or designing it, tuning the crossover. Now, I'm not going to say that's the rule these days, but in general, that has been the rule in the past for, say, mid to higher end speakers. Someone would eventually listen to it to determine if it sounded correct. Okay? Not just building it to the numbers. So that leaves us with building your own. And the building your own option is one for people like myself who have a workshop and have the ability to build my own woodworking projects. That's the first thing. And if you don't have that, you can buy kits that you can, say, flat pack type deal, where you'll just glue the parts together and then you'll solder the components together and put it in. But if you want to go a little bit further, as in design and build something right from the ground up, then you need a place to do the work, the woodworking, if it's made from wood. 3D printing is an option these days if you're going to go small, or even medium-sized speakers. I don't think you can rule out the size of the ELAC speaker if you're talking about 3D printing these days, because you can get quite big. But you need a place to do these things. You need the time to learn about it as well. I mean, this is a complex topic. Designing and building speakers that sound proper is complex. There's a lot of stuff that you need to know before you, well, I can't say before you get started, because I was building speakers before I knew any of this stuff, just for the sake of building something that makes sound. So you can start humble and work your way up, or you can start with a kit and build something that's really good. But keep in mind what I said at the beginning, and that speakers are built to a price point, and that goes for kits and everything else as well. So even if you're going to build, say, a very highly regarded kit, chances are that it's not going to sound a lot better than the one that's around the same price that you can buy, ready-made. So that's something to keep in mind. But for those of us that love building stuff, there's no substitute for designing and building your own. Before I go, I want to give you a bit of an update on what's going on. I know I haven't posted a video lately. I've been busy doing some other things, in particular moving this stuff that you see beside me down here to the space outside my listening room in the basement. I've moved this out of my office where it was before, and I'm going to change my office to what I'm calling a hobby room, which is where I'll be doing all of the electronics projects from now on. Or at least that's the plan. And I still have quite a bit of work to do up there before I can call it that room. But right now, I've got electronics scattered all over the place. Some is out in my shop, some is in a room behind me, the laundry room. Some is in an earlier electronics room, which proved to be too small and too remote. It wasn't convenient to get to it. I have to walk, I know, first world problem, walk through your listening room, open the door, go in there, that kind of thing. But I'll have everything centralized in the hobby room, and that will be good, right? Because right now I have stuff scattered all over my kitchen as well while I work on the preamp control box that I, keep working at, and the hearing aid that I actually started designing and got kind of obsessed with for a while. I've gone through, 5 or 6 different circuits to try and finally settled on what I hope will be the last one. I still have to do some testing on it. But yeah, that'll be coming up. Also, speaker projects coming up, finishing the coax array speakers. Also doing the open baffle speakers that I talked about making a limited run of. I'll be making the speakers themselves, like the first pair, my pair, and deciding while I do that whether I'm actually going to go ahead with that idea of selling a limited run of speakers.